Hello there and welcome to the booth and viewing area here at Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. We're in Madrid, Spain, and we're winding down the tournament here, heading into our first semifinal. We're bringing you Andrea Mengucci versus Shota Yasooka right now. Hello and welcome to coverage of Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Randy Bueller, and we're underway in our first semifinal match. Whew, this is going to be a good one. We've got Andrea Mengucci from Italy playing Bant Company. Take a look at Andrea there. He looks like he's ready to fight.
You know, we still have the reigning world champion in this tournament and the reigning world team champion in this tournament.
Wow, yeah, that's coming up in a little bit. We've got Shota Yasooka on the other side of the table here from Japan. The Hall of Famer, of course, he's playing Esper Dragons, which it's so weird to just say that because there's so few of them in the tournament and nobody did well with them except for Shota.
You weren't predicting an all Esper final as a possibility at this stage?
No, not at all.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see how this matchup plays out. I mean, on the one hand, Bant Company seems like it should be pretty good against Esper Dragons, but on the other hand, it's Shota playing Esper Dragons, and regular rules don't seem to apply when that man picks up a blue deck. That's
right. Shota Yasooka got by Luis Scott Vargas in the quarterfinal to put himself in here, and now he has to fight against Andrea Mengucci, the lone copy of Bant Company in the top 8. This was definitely the deck to beat coming into the tournament, and it looks like people figured out ways to beat it because Andrea is the only one left as Grasp of Darkness takes down a Duskwatch Recruiter, so the board's still empty. Currently, land number 3 for Shota Yasooka as he passes the turn back to Mengucci. Of course, we're going to be playing a best of 5 here in our semifinal. We play that for the entire top 8. The first 2 games are going to be pre-sideboarded, and then any games after that will be sideboarded games. Here is a Nissa, which is going to resolve. We can see that Shota Yasooka has only 1 blue mana source, so there will be no hard counter there.
Yeah, Shota's got 2 copies of Languish in his hand and a Dragon Lord Ojutai. He's got to, you know, does he want to spend 4 mana and a Languish for just Nissa? Yes, is what he's decided. Which I think makes sense given that his turn 5 is probably tap out for Ojutai.
Let's see what Andrea Mengucci has lined up here for turn 4. This is going to be an important one. If he can apply real pressure to Shota, then the plan of playing Dragon Lord Ojutai may not look quite as good. But if he can't, he can't. Now,
Mengu does have a collected company.
He does.
I think he thought about just doing it main phase while Shota was tapped out.
Yeah, he's going to do it now.
Yeah. He's got Shota tapped out again. He can do it end step as a surprise.
Okay, here we go. Collected company. This is huge. The creatures that Mengucci hits off of Collected Company are going to dictate a lot of how this match goes.
Is that Recruiter and Nissa?
He's also hit a Tireless Tracker in that pile as well. So
it was Tracker, not Recruiter. My bad.
Right. So he's got some really good options here, and now you're going to see him consult his hand as he's trying to plan out the next few turns of the game, keeping in mind that he is facing down Dragon Lord Ojutai, one of the most powerful cards in Standard, but one that we don't see that often these days.
There's actually a lot going on in this last 2-turn sequence. I mean, Collected Company is an instant, obviously. We're trained to play instants at the last possible moment. But against a blue mage, when they're tapped out, you often do these things main phase. But I mean, I think Andrea went to the next level still, where he says, you know what? If Shota was willing to Languish just a Nissa, I bet he's got another Languish in his hand. I'm not going to play this Collected Company main phase because I don't want to get Languished. I'll still wait, even though it opens up Counterspell. Maybe he's going to tap out for Ojutai or something.
So it looks like he's going to take this opportunity to transform Jace Vryn's Prodigy. He had drawn a land for the turn and finds another one. So here we go. Discard a forest. That's going to get a transform going here. And it's probably going to put an interesting decision to Shota Yasooka. If he needs to start attacking Jace, or if he can just start attacking Andrea. Of course, he won't get the free card if he attacks Jace. So let's see what Mengucci finds here. Well, he's going to start off by attacking with Tireless Tracker, signaling that he may have a Dromoka's Command in his hand, which he does. Yasooka looks like he's having none of it. He's just going to take the damage.
Yep. Not a potential bluff he can afford to call.
Okay, Duskwatch Recruiter, and he's going to plus Jason just past the turn back. So Mengucci playing a very calculated style here. He's left up 3 mana to activate the Duskwatch Recruiter. He's put his Jace just out of range of 1 hit from Ojutai, and he still has the clue from Tireless Tracker, as well as the Tireless Tracker on the battlefield. So really applying a lot of pressure here to Yasooka from different angles. And Shota's just going to attack Mengucci here. Mengucci falls down to 15 life, and Shota's got a decision to make here. He found a Dragon Lord Silumgar, also a Painful Truths in there.
Silumgar seems kind of exciting.
And a Transgress. Yeah, he takes the Silumgar.
Does he have a land in his hand?
That's the question, isn't it? Dragon Lord Silumgar, incredibly difficult for Mengucci to deal with.
It comes into play tapped land.
Oh, brutal. Well, it is a second blue mana source for down the line here for Yasooka, but more importantly, just that 6th mana so he can fire off the Dragon Lord Silumgar. Interesting. Another Collected Company goes into the hand of Andrea Mengucci, who's going to transform the Duskwatch Recruiter into the Clone Horde Howler.
Sacked a clue instead of recruiting.
That's right, and he found a Collected Company with it.
Also, of course, has the ability to flash back Collected Company with Jace right now.
Mengucci does have a Reflector Mage in his hand. Ojutai susceptible right now since it's tapped. Okay, here's Reflector Mage. It's going to resolve, and Dragon Lord Ojutai back into the hand of Shota Yasooka. This is going to clear the way for a very big attack here. Yasooka's going to fall down to 9 life, and Jace is just going to plus nothing from Shota that turn. He's got another swamp. Languish is going to be the play, and it's huge here. The interesting question, though, from Mengucci's side, so this is going to happen. He's considering, what is he considering now? It looks like he's just thinking. Remember, he has a Collected Company in his hand, so he has to decide if it's worth firing it off on the end step here after this Languish goes away. He does have a Dromoka's Command, too.
Yeah, he's got a clue. He can, if he sacks a clue and uses Dromoka's Command, does the tracker survive the Languish?
It does,
right?
It does.
So he can get the tracker to 5 toughness.
Okay. It looks like that's going to be his line here.
His other choice was play a Collected Company.
On end step and hope that it resolves through the double blue mana there from Shota.
Yeah, this line looks a lot better, though.
I agree. This gives him more immediate board presence, but it looks like it's going to be foiled. Yes, it will, in fact. Wow, that was huge. Silumgar scoring for Shota Yasooka. He immediately snaps off the Dromoka's Command.
Although this means Silumgar scoring didn't counter the Collected Company, right?
That's true.
So, I mean, I still like Andrea's line, even though it didn't work out, because he got that counterspell out, and now he knows he can resolve the Collected Company.
Yeah, he could be effectively up a card here, thanks to the Collected Company. So.
Yeah, he turned Dromoka's Command into something worthy of a counterspell.
Right. Yeah, I like this a lot. And we're going to see Collected Company from the graveyard here. Remember, he's also got one in his hand, so Andrea Mengucci moving ahead beautifully in this game, just sequencing things to make life very difficult for Shota Yasooka.
How's that?
There we go. Tireless Tracker, Sylvan Advocate back on the battlefield here. And there's even a land, and it's a good one. It's a Lumbering Fall. So, wow, this is really coming together here for Mengucci.
No fear of Languish now that he's got all those lands for Sylvan Advocate. It will survive. So he can commit multiples to the board. Shota has the Languish. Sylvan Advocate is pretty big.
Yeah, is he forced to just fire it off to kill the Tireless Tracker? Seems like not a great turn for Yasooka. And remember, that Lumbering Falls is going to be a 5/5 as well. So Mengucci's got lethal next turn.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
2 Advocates.
How about we upgrade it? It's actually a 7/7 since he has 2 Advocates.
Dragon Lord Silumgar is probably what Shota has to do here.
Just so he has a way to interact with the Lumbering Falls.
Yeah, I mean, if he steals an Advocate, it'll effectively shrink the falls, too. But he basically he can't beat a Reflector Mage.
Yeah. Wow, this is interesting. This has been a game of subtleties, but a very close one. Okay, yeah, Dragon Lord Silumgar it is.
Shota can give himself a pair of 5 toughness blockers, and that's still not good enough for Lumbering Falls, huh?
He could steal Jace.
He could steal Jace. That is reasonable, and I guess that's okay. That's where he's going to go.
Shrink down one of the Advocates. No, he's going to shrink down the Tireless Tracker and pass the turn back. So he's committed to a block here. Land off the top for Mengucci. Remember, he still has a clue token as well. Another Collected Company in hand. You got to feel like this favors Mengucci at this point.
Definitely. Does he want to go fishing for a Reflector Mage here?
I think he's just going to activate and rumble.
Nah, just charge. Reasonable.
Attack with everything, and that's the game. Andrea Mengucci wins game 1 in impressive fashion here. Shota Yasooka saw the writing on the wall. He knew that wasn't going to work out well for him, but it was the only reasonable play that he had. And once again, you see beautifully played game there by Andrea Mengucci, who takes game 1 over Shota Yasooka. We'll be back right after this.
Whether riding the bus or waiting for the Pro Tour finals to begin, Magic Duels is a great way to hone your skills and try new strategies. Featuring hundreds of earnable cards from Magic's latest sets and virtually unlimited AI and online opponents, start playing Magic Duels free today on iPhone, iPad, Xbox One, and Steam. In the art of Magic the Gathering Zendikar, you can experience the danger and beauty of Zendikar like never before. This lavishly illustrated hardcover book features the award-winning art of Magic the Gathering and gives you an insider's look at the secrets of Zendikar, its peoples, continents, and creatures. On sale now.
Magic is kind of the only thing in my life that I ever wanted to be good at, that I ever dedicated my time to, and I just haven't really stopped.
The one thing I guess I would say to people is, my son never loses. He's relentless. He's relentless.
I would want to have a legacy. I was the first female to top 8 a Pro Tour. It was like a huge moment in Magic history. And I want to be remembered as that person, and I want other females to be inspired to play or do as well as I did.
Yeah, and I still love playing Magic, and for me, it's like the Hall of Fame is so close. I feel like, one more good Pro Tour finish even could get me back on the ballot, maybe get me in the Hall of Fame.
Feature match area here in Madrid, Spain.
Marshall, this Bant Company deck looks great. Why didn't anybody else play it?
I tell you, coming into the tournament, this was the deck to beat. I think that when the pro teams were making their gauntlets, this was #1 on the list.
For sure. And it was by far the most played deck on day 1. Was still the most played deck on day 2, but it didn't advance particularly well. And as day 2 progressed, it really became a battle between decks that could beat Bant Company. And then you get this weird thing where, we've played so many rounds and there's so many players that, the Bant Company deck that kind of snuck into the top 8 actually has a field full of decks that didn't make their living beating Bant Company. They made their living beating the anti-Bant Company decks.
Interesting. Why don't we take a look at our sideboards here for our players as we've got Oh, sorry. How about we wait until sideboards when they can actually sideboard? So once again, a little bit of a change here at this Pro Tour, and I think it's a really great change, actually. It's one that I've been hoping to see, which is that we're not going to go to sideboarded games until the next one. It just felt like it skewed.
Yeah.
Best of 5 was correct over best of 3, but that maybe it skewed it a little bit towards the sideboarded games
yeah, I mean,
too much.
60% sideboarded is a lot closer to the 67% you see in the regular tournament than 80% would be.
Right.
So it makes sense to me too. I also know there's some formats where you get sideboard cards that just completely change the way the Magic plays.
Mm-hmm.
I always felt a little weird to have that be the only way the games play out, or the way the vast majority play out.
Yeah, totally. So Andrea Mengucci finds himself up a game over Shota Yasooka. Of course, we're going to be bringing you semifinal number 2 once this one concludes. That's Seth Manfield versus Steve Rubin, 2 players from the United States who are left in the tournament.
Yeah, we're going to have a juicy final no matter what happens.
I actually can't see a combination that doesn't produce an awesome finals here.
I mean, I guess we're down to only one Hall of Famer left in the field so far. But
yes, that's true.
I was talking about this. Spent a lot of time last night debating Pro Tour top 8s with BDM.
It was
guys
really
hanging
funny.
out at the bar at the hotel.
I asked one of you separately and kind of got some, and then you two got together at dinner and it was just boom.
Here's the answer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you needed to go through every Pro Tour ever.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, hey.
All right, looks like we have opening hands here, Randy, as we are underway in game number 2 of this first semifinal match here in Madrid. A couple of dual lands here for our players to kick things off.
Short version of that conversation, by the way. Brian and I both have this in the top 5 all time already. And by the time we get 10 years in the future and see how the careers of, Brad Nelson, Seth Manfield, Steve Rubin, how all those guys play out, it could be the best Pro Tour top 8 of all time. It's just hard to measure that today, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you, from my perspective, I'm relatively new to the coverage team compared to like you and Brian. This is, I think, the best one since I've been doing coverage.
Yeah, it's great. It is one of the best of all time already, even before we see how those guys' careers play out. Chicago 2000 is, I believe, the best, though. 6 Hall of Famers, including both John and Kai. It's tough to beat.
All right, here's Nissa Vastwood Seer now for Andrea Mengucci. He's going to go get a Forest, and Shota Yasooka is going to kind of start his turn without him. Playing pretty quickly here, but I do believe it was a Painful Truths here for Shota.
Yep.
So trading cards currently, Ultimate Price takes down Jace. Now Painful Truth does let Nissa Vastwood Seer stay on the battlefield for a turn, but she's not too dangerous.
You got a couple turns to deal with her.
Yeah. Just going to attack for a couple of points of damage, dropping Shota down to 18. And there's a Tireless Tracker and a land. So once again, we see this sort of plotting value grind start to move forward here, where even with the Languish, which is exactly what we see here, Andrea Mengucci got a card back.
Both
off
his
of
cards,
Nissa,
right?
Got a card back off of Tireless Tracker with that clue. He's got it kind of locked up for now, but it's all about incremental card advantage here with this Bant Company deck, and this deck is amazing at producing that. Tireless Tracker number 2 and another land, so there's a couple of clues, so we can assume pretty likely a clue token will get cracked on end step there. Let's see what Shota Yasooka has. This wouldn't be a bad turn for a Dragon Lord. Ojitai. Okay. Land. What does Shota have? Just the Jace?
I think he's got Silumgar.
He does have Dragon Lord Silumgar, but is not interested in stealing the Tireless Tracker.
Apparently.
I've seen him do it in this tournament. I think he drew 4 or 5 cards off that tracker before he won the game.
Oh, it looks like he's got a Clash of Wills as well, so I think it was that he didn't want to tap out for Silumgar.
Yeah, that is what our hand viewer is showing as well, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, if he can leave that Clash of Wills up and stop a collected company from happening, I don't think this incremental card advantage is enough to overwhelm Shota's late game, without a collected company anyway.
This is an attack for 4 from Mengucci with his Tireless Tracker. Looks like he's just attacking for 4 here.
Yeah, I think it's another slow-rolled Sylvan Advocate, too. These, the mint card company decks have done a lot better than the rest of the Bant company decks in the field. And I think they've just, part of it is I think these guys are just playing it better. And here you see this is the same tech that Andrea was using against Sean Finkel.
Absolutely.
Against opponents with Languish, don't play your Sylvan Advocate until turn 6.
It's also not just Languish. It's Grasp as well.
Right, right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of cards that you're blanking out of Shota Yasooka's deck, and all of a sudden Sylvan Advocate becomes one of your best threats in the deck, period. Even though normally you think of it as like, oh, I'll play it on turn 2 and then it'll get bigger later. They always always hold them in their hand until they're 4/5s for sure, so that they take, you know, at least an ultimate price or something to kill it.
This is a Clash for 3? So this is Shota just trying to get Andrea tapped out? Is that what's going on?
It does look like that's the case. Wow, and it actually works here as well. And this is going to open it up. Now that Shota's tapped out, he gets to fire, Mengucci, excuse me, gets to fire off a Dromoka's command to kill Jace before he even gets to activate it. Wow, that was a cool sequence there, but big problems here.
Is that what he was setting him up for?
For Mengucci, it could be. You know, that could have been, you know, Shota could have said, well, my worst case is this, and this looks pretty good. He even has a land to play.
He uses a Dromoka's command, kills my Jace, but that just means he made me a 6-power Tireless Tracker. That was absurd.
That was absurd. Now all of a sudden, Shota Yasooka.
And he did that with a Clash of Wills that shouldn't, and he got to counter the Sylvan Advocate. He clashed for less mana than Andrea could have paid.
Yeah, it also seems that even if Andrea would have paid for the Clash of Wills, then Shota just says, sure, here's Dragonlord, I'll steal your Advocate. So he kind of gets the best of both worlds.
Yeah, but I agreed. I think Shota likes this world better. It's one of those where Andrea knows, like when you Clash of Wills for 3 and somebody has 4 untapped land, they clearly want you to tap out for some reason. Well, I don't want to do what my opponent wants me to do, right? You never do what they want you to do.
Yeah.
But Shota was just on the next level. That was masterful. And you saw it just instantaneous, too. Like the flurry of the clue and the command and Shota put the Jace in the graveyard. He knew that's what was going to happen or could happen. And then insta-untap, slam Dragonlord Silumgar.
And now he's really threatening to take over this game with that Tireless Tracker.
He's even got his own clue now.
Yeah. Yeah, he waited to play a land, so...
Why play Dragonlord Silumgar on turn 6? You're supposed to wait a turn, right? Isn't Tireless Tracker, you always wait an extra turn? You put your Tireless Tracker into play and then play a land.
That's exactly what he did. Okay, so let's see what's going to happen. Here's Reflector Mage to return Tireless Tracker back to Andrea Mengucci's hand.
I think he must have been asking whether he's allowed to replay it.
Right.
And the answer is yes. It's Shota who's not allowed to play it, right? I think.
Here's a Duskwatch Recruiter as a follow-up.
He chose
for
not to play it.
Yeah, he's also has that clue that he can sacrifice here as well. Meanwhile,
it's owner's
Shota
hand.
Yasooka
So yeah. Sorry. So
attacks for 3.
Andrea was making it so that he was not allowed to play his own Advocate, but that's all right. Still got it back for later.
Yeah. Well, here's a Languish. Dromoka's command, and he's going to fight.
Okay, just enough damage on the Dragonlord so that it'll die to the Languish.
Well, interestingly, we're going to see a little dig here. Did he find a counterspell? I feel like he did. I think he found a Silumgar score in there off of that clue. I think he's just considering if it's worth it to keep his Dragonlord Silumgar alive.
Which is not obvious. I mean, it's effectively a 3. Do I want a 3/5 flyer? Or do I want a counterspell in my hand?
Yeah, he did, and he's going to counter it. So he's going to keep his clock alive, as it were, and keep the pressure on Andrea Mengucci.
Also, that counterspell turns into a 4 spike if the dragon dies. So he really would have only been able to keep a 4 spike in his hand.
Yeah, good point. Okay, so here comes the Tireless Tracker again. Okay, and a land. This is starting to look a little slow, though. Mengucci's at 17. A reasonable clock here for Shota, but we'll see what else he has in his hand as well. Looks like he's got a Jace Vryn's Prodigy and another copy of Languish.
Tracker cannot quite get out of Languish range.
And a Duskwatch Recruiter. This looks like it's going to be a very good turn here for Yasooka, as he can just attack for 3 and play a Languish just like he did last turn, but the shields are fully down here for Mengucci.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
I will say, I think Andrea was right to commit a second creature to the board and just basically say, Shota, show me another Languish or I'm going to win. I think that was a very reasonable play for Andrea, but he did also kind of put a bunch of resources in the table where he would be vulnerable to a Languish that Shota turned out to have. What a great game.
Yeah, this has been a really cool match so far. Both players playing excellent. It's fun to watch. Quick check of the graveyard here from Mengucci.
It's like, yeah, there are 3 Languishes. That was Languish number 3.
Yeah, he's also looking at that Jace, I think, and wondering, well, what could possibly come back here? And, well, this is good news here for Mengucci. He's got a Nissa Vastwood here. He's going to grab a forest with it. And he will have a Planeswalker on his side of the battlefield here as well. Okay, so he's going to transform Nissa here to Sage Animist mode. Plus, get a land. 2 lands in hand for Mengucci, though. Nothing going on.
Get a Lumbering Falls and a Nissa.
So we're going to see Shota Yasooka start to dig through his library with his Jace, though it is going to transform immediately. Discards a land. And now he's going to look through his graveyard, and it's going to be a painful truth. He's going to go ahead and flash that back using Jace's minus ability. And it looks like he's going to drop down to 8, but draw 3 cards. And this could be the play that puts him firmly ahead. It looks like he's teetering on the edge of winning this game here, but that's the kind of play that can really catapult you into the lead, especially when Mengucci's sitting on nothing. Just got a pair of lands in hand. Transgress the mind, so the bad news for Mengucci is going to be shown now to Shota Yasooka, and he knows that the way is clear. No collected company in hand for Mengucci. And now Shota has to start thinking, though, about those Lumbering Falls.
Yeah, he's got Foul Tongue Invocation, which is pretty nice here.
It is nice.
Was nice. Shota played his Prairie Stream tapped, and Andrea says, no, it's untapped.
It's only fair. Okay, so Yasooka, instead of attacking the life total, is going to attack Nissa. He knows that that is one of the key ways that Andrea Mengucci can pull back into this game, so he's going to try to stem that bleeding immediately before passing the turn back. Let's look at what Shota found off of that Painful Truths. Oh, wow. He's got that invocation that you just mentioned, the last Languish, as well as a Dragonlord Ojutai and another Jace Vryn's Prodigy there as well.
Yeah, Andrea's got to try to kill Jace with Lumbering Falls, right?
Yes. Can he activate 2 of them this turn?
That is an interesting question.
He can. He's not going to. And this is going to hurt. He can activate it in response.
Mm-hmm.
He can activate the one that's still back and just sacrifice that one. Wow, he doesn't, though. And that means that Jace gets to survive.
Yeah, I think he wants the mana for Krasis. Krasis tap Dragon, and then Krasis can attack Jace.
He's got an Ojutai's Command and a Bounding Krasis to go with the Canopy Vista in hand. And here, like you just outlined, Randy, is Bounding Krasis to tap down the Dragon Lord, which is going to protect Nissa. Jace is going to go up, targeting the Krasis. And there, that's it. Dragon Lord Ojutai plus the second copy of Jace. This is Yasooka making his move. He's looking to even things up against Andrea Mengucci here in Game 2 of the first semifinal. Mengucci's still got cards flowing, though. Jace for Vryn's Prodigy there for Andrea Mengucci. Last card in hand for Shota Yasooka is an ultimate price, which he's going to use to take out Jace after Mengucci passes a turn with a heck of a lot of lands on the battlefield, facing down a Planeswalker, make that 2 Planeswalkers. This one's going to make a Foul Tongue Invocation, which he's going to fire off immediately, and then he's going to transform his other Jace.
Yep.
And then he's got 2 Dragon Lords as well. They don't call it Esper Dragons for nothing. It looks like Shota Yasooka is in the final stages of this game, potentially.
Discards his backup copy of Ojitai. Yeah, 3 power at Nissa, 5 power at you.
This works out quite beautifully.
I get another card. Make that 3 cards. He had the option of Painful Truths anyway. Is that what he took, or did he take something even better?
He's got a Grasp of Darkness in his hand already.
I took Grasp. That does seem better.
And there's someone got scorned, which will do it. Shota Yasooka takes game 2 from Andrea Mengucci, and now we're all tied at a game apiece. So rewind to a few Pro Tours ago, best 2 out of 3.
Best 2 out of 3.
Sideboarded games, though, so a little twist here.
Indeed.
Great stuff, by the way, down there in the feature match area, Randy. I really like how both of those players piloted through that. It was fantastic. Okay, let's take a look at the sideboards that we have here, starting with Andrea Mengucci. And let's see what he might want to do. He's got a Dragonlord Dromica, which is quite nice, can't be countered, prevents basically all counter spells and instant speed removal spells from casting your turn.
100% coming in.
Yeah, that one's in. And then what else does he have? 2 Dispel. I'm assuming that he'd like 2 copies of Dispel. And this is a really interesting one. He's got 2 Invasive Surgery. Now he can use those to counter, well, quite a few different things, but Languish being the main culprit. For just 1 mana, he can counter it. Now, when it comes to Delirium, I actually had a chance to ask the team, well, do you ever get to go take all of the Languishes? And they said basically they can't get Delirium, so it's just Envelop. It's a blue counter-target sorcery. Now, there's also 3 copies of Negate. So this is pretty interesting. That's a lot of counter magic out of the sideboard. I think more than the normal Bant Company deck has. So 2 Dispel, 2 Surgery, and 3 Negate possible here.
The real tricky part, though, is what are you taking out of your deck? I mean, you still need your collected companies to hit. So you can't go below, 20, 22 creatures.
Yeah.
You have to have, and that's 3 mana or less creatures, obviously.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can take out the Avacyn's maybe. You can take out the Dromica's Commands, I think are probably what come out. But now that's 6 cards. There's 7 counters here, plus the Dromica. Be interesting to see how much of that he can actually find room for in his deck.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he brought in some mix of these counter spells and not
I actually think Negate is the best one. I think having 2 mana, sure, it's a drawback, but because sometimes you're going to want to counter an instant, sometimes you're going to counter a sorcery, and Negate can do both.
Yeah, it is kind of the combination of both of those, but for 2 mana, and I agree. I think it is absolutely excellent here. Let's take a look at Shota Yasooka's sideboard now. He's got a much more diverse board, and as you can see, he's got a lot going on.
Yeah, he really does. Yeah, typical of control decks, he has a lot of options in terms of customizing. Now that he knows what the threats are that he needs to answer, which removal spells does he think are best? How much permission, how much hand destruction, and which hand destruction? And I'm not going to claim I know the answer.
No. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Deadweight come in, as it does kill a few relevant things. Jace, it also kills
and very cheaply.
Recruiter for very easy.
Agree.
Yeah.
But again,
it's Trader of Get looks awesome here too.
It's not like Shota has bad cards in his main deck, though. I mean, sometimes you'll have one of these, you'll have a control deck and you have half a dozen cards that aren't relevant to the matchup you're playing against. And, I mean, none of Shota's cards are terrible. It's just, how many Painful Truths do you want? How many, Transgress the Minds do you want? Do you want to counter the collected company or try to take it out of their hand? There's a bunch of subtle decisions along those lines that, I mean, I'm sure Shota has tested this matchup extensively. I don't know how many times he played it over the course of the weekend. That would be a cool thing to know if we have the access to that stat.
Well, we'll find out shortly here how Shota's decided to sideboard.
Only played Bant Company once during the Swiss is the answer that has just been fed to me.
I'm assuming he won.
No, he lost.
Wow.
0-1.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's really crazy to me how this top 8 does have multiple decks that are weak to the most played deck at the Pro Tour.
Let's head back down to the feature match area here as the players are just getting shuffled up and ready for Game 3 action here of this first semifinal. Again, for those of you just tuning in, we're going to be bringing you semifinal number 2 after this one. That's Seth Manfield from the United States playing Esper Control. He's facing down Steve Rubin, also from the United States, on green-white tokens. So you have something to look forward to there. But right now, we're tied at a game apiece. You can take a look at Andrea Mengucci from Italy there as he shuffles his opponent's library. Interestingly, Mengucci faced down Esper Dragons. It wasn't Shota in the Swiss. It was Ivan Flock.
Oh, interesting.
Which... he's one of the best control players, period.
Well, I mean,
and he beat him.
There was like a control players alliance. Like Shota put this list together, got the mana to work out, and then, you know, did you hear the list of people he shared it with?
No.
Even Flock.
Really?
Paulo Vitor Dermo de Rosa. And there's like one other, I'm just slipping my mind, super famous sort of control-minded player that all switched over to Shota's list.
I had not heard that. I could just view them all huddled in the corner, you know, whispering about the Esper
It's like the Affinity Alliance we had with around Frank Karsten at the last Modern Pro Tour.
That's really funny.
Yeah, Paulo was kind of wishing he'd played his team's deck. Paulo was with Face-to-Face, the green-white tokens deck that Steve Rubin is playing. Paulo had access to that, but elected to go with his Esper Dragons list instead. Too bad for Brad Nelson getting that matchup in the quarters. I talked to him on day 1. Like he was 8-0 on day 1. And I ran into him, I forget if it was, he was 7-0 or 8-0 when I was talking to him, and he felt really good about the deck, obviously. And he said, it's a little soft to Gideon, and I really hope other people beat up on that face-to-face list. That green-white tokens list is the only thing I'm worried about.
And that's the one he faced?
One of them snuck into the top 8, and that's the pairing that Brad got.
Wow. That is unfortunate for Brad. All right, looks like we've got Shota looking at a 6-card hand here and deciding if he wants to keep a 1-lander, which he does. He's put a land back on top of his library. Nice camera angle there for us to see it. And it was a shambling event, so he's going to play that. Pass the turn back. And what is the turn 2 play? All right, looks like Mengucci's going to take a much more aggressive route with the Sylvan Advocate here.
Yeah, I mean, you try not to play them until late.
But you can see why.
Yeah, if you don't have another 2-drop, of course you run it out there.
His hand just does basically nothing anyway, so he's just going to run it out there. He can't wait until turn 6 to make his play. There's a Duskwatch Recruiter off the top, which he would have preferred to have had here.
Exactly.
On turn 2.
So he's going to go for that instead of the tracker?
Yes. It looks like he's going to play the tracker next turn.
He gets to play, comes in and play tap land?
Yeah, exactly. And he can play a land next turn with the tracker and get himself a clue. There's a Transgress the Mind, though, as the follow-up for Yasooka, who does miss his land drop.
Did you see that? They're like, Transgress the Mind, Shota puts straight in the graveyard. Mengu just puts the Tireless Tracker in exile because he knows that Shota already knows every card in his hand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is just rapid-fire magic here. And things are looking pretty good for Mengucci, as even though he's got no relevance, in fact, just no spells in hand at all. Did he just miss?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that is unfortunate for him. But he is keeping the pressure up. And he's really making Shota Yasooka find answers for these threats pretty quickly, as Shota's already down to 14 and looks to possibly be missing another land drop here.
Yeah, that recruit was with the werewolf flipped trigger on the stack. Lumbering Falls, fire it up. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Do it. This game's going to be over if Shota can't. That's it. Wow. Andrea Mengucci steals a quick game 3. A mana stumble there for Yasooka, and that did it. His hand was filled with very expensive spells. So Andrea Mengucci, 1 game away from finding himself in the finals here in Madrid. He just has to beat Shota Yasooka in one of the next 2 games. How hard could that be?
Yeah, seriously. Mengucci in his 2nd Pro Tour top 8. Also made the top 8 at Pro Tour Journey into Knicks in Atlanta. Of course, the biggest title he's got is World Magic Cup champion.
That's right.
As part of Team Italy.
I remember that. I remember it was funny because, I was doing the winter interview with them, with the team, and all I did is say the word song because I had heard, and they just all started singing, and I just got out of their way.
That's awesome.
It's just like, you go. So, Randy, one of the cards that has really stood out in my mind as an absolute breakout card here this weekend is Duskwatch Recruiter. And I say that from the perspective of both the draft portion and the constructed portion of the Pro Tour.
Sure.
That card is fantastic.
Completely agree. Is it your best non-rare? Non-rare. Is it the best uncommon in the set for limited, do you think?
It's in the top 3.
It's definitely in the top 3. Might be number 1.
Yeah, Lightning Axe is up there pretty high.
Pack Guardian's still up on my list.
Yeah, I do have this higher than that.
I'll buy that. It's a 2-drop that does so much. Fills your hand, and, oh, by the way, it's a werewolf. Can flip into a 3/3 that makes your other stuff easier to cast.
Yeah, and the synergies with it, or the play sequences with it are so smooth as well, of playing it, saying go, your opponent passes a turn, you play your land, you say go, the ability goes on the stack on their upkeep, you activate it, you get a creature, then when it comes back to you, you're attacking for more damage and your creatures are cheaper. It's just so beautiful, right?
Yeah.
It, like, the first time you play it, you're like, oh, yeah, this works really nicely.
This might be good enough for constructed.
Yeah, and I have to say that I did not expect to see it in constructed until I was actually doing some play testing for this, you know, for being in the booth. And I picked up the Bant Company deck. I said, well, I want to know what the Boogeyman is all about. And I played that card, and I thought, nope, this does the exact same thing here that it does there. And of course, critically, it only costs 2 mana. And it can be hit by Collected Company, so fits right in. I'm a big fan of that card. Players are just getting shuffled up for the 4th game. Andrea Mengucci with the lightning quick victory, just pouncing on Shota Yasooka after he stumbled on mana. Can he close out and put himself into the finals of the Pro Tour? This is Andrea's 2nd Pro Tour top 8. So
yes. 12th Pro Tour start, by the way.
That's impressive.
2 top 8s in 12. And the first 12, too, yeah. Shota has 40-some Pro Tour starts, I believe.
Yeah.
Wins 62% of his matches across those 40-some Pro Tours, which is top 10 in the field. I mean, only the 3rd Pro Tour top 8, but I mean, it always, every time you talk about Shota, you got to use the word only. I mean, it's so surprising that he doesn't have more because he's been so good for so long and just so many near misses over the years.
All right, we've got opening hands for our players, and that looks like a keep from Shota.
Just have a stat for like round 15 feature matches. Like you're in top 8 contention with 2 rounds to go. Shota's probably up there with John on that list.
I'd like to see that.
Be a cool stat, right?
Yeah. I don't want to glorify that stat too much.
Right, of course.
You know what I mean? But I'm
you
curious.
actually do need to win and get the top 8s,
yeah.
but.
All right, so a much better start here for Yasooka in game number 4. Jace Vryn's Prodigy hits the battlefield right on time for him on turn 2. As he is on the play this game, Andrea Mengucci has one of his own. But this definitely favors Shota here in the early stages as he's going to activate Jace. Likely looking for an answer for the opposing Jace here.
Is he discarding Painful Truths?
Surprised to see that. Well,
a
little less surprised now. All right, so there's a Painful Truths for Shota. That means that Mengucci does get to untap with the Jace, though.
Yeah, it's not quite as scary as it was in the previous standard. A couple months ago, 1 Jace activation was often enough to flip him. Current standard, you usually have a turn or 2 before he's going to turn into a Planeswalker. I mean, you don't want to let him loot for free, obviously. But it's not as bad to let them untap with Jace as it used to be.
Mengu's going to discard a land. And he's got that Duskwatch Recruiter that we just talked about a minute ago. Still not a blistering start here. And Yasooka once again gets to activate his Jace. He finds a Read the Bones with it. Let's take a look at what Shota's working with in his hand here. Wow. That is a lot of action.
Still no removal spells, but...
Shockingly, yes, that is the case here, and he's just going to cast another Read the Bones. But still, he's out so far ahead with his Jace. His life total is at 15 now. All self-inflicted, but Mengucci still doesn't get to transform his Jace for a long time for the reasons that you outlined a minute ago, Randy. So, and there's a removal spell for Yasooka. He's found an
discard to hand
price.
size. That's how many cards he's drawn.
Yeah.
Discards the extra Jace to hand size.
Passes the turn back to Mengucci. Mengucci's going to be keenly aware of the possibility of a languish here, and that's what Yasooka's looking for. He doesn't seem to have one in his hand. No, he doesn't. He did find a Grasp of Darkness, it seems. I'm pretty sure I saw an ultimate price in there as well.
So Mengu does the trick you just explained, passes the turn without using his mana. That'll let him flip his werewolf, but with the flip trigger on the stack, he would like to recruit a new creature, and its bound increases. Got the sideboarding, by the way. Mengucci took out the 4 Dromoka's commands and the 2 Archangels that we suspected,
yes,
along with 1 bound increases.
Okay.
Brought in 2 Dispel, 3 Negate, and 2 Declaration and Stone.
Okay, so he left.
He did not bring in Invasive Surgery.
Invasive Surgery.
He brought in 5 of the counter spells, and then 2 Declarations so that he can kill a dragon.
Yeah, I know those Invasive Surgeries were particularly well suited against the deck that John Finkel was playing.
Yes, for sure.
But it looks like they've decided that the negates are going to make up enough of that ground here.
Yeah, most of the cards from Shota that he cares about are instants, I think. Yasooka, meanwhile, oh, that's interesting. -2 Languish.
Oh, interesting.
And -1 Transgress, -2 Clash of Wills, -1 Obnixilis. In comes 2 Kalitas, 2 Deadweight, and 2 Duress.
Okay. In the meantime, Jace has transformed for Shota Yasooka, and he's found a friend. Dragon Lord Ojitai has arrived to help get Shota back to 2-2 in this match. He's passed the turn back to Andrea Mengucci. Mengucci's activated his Jace for the 3rd time this game. He's deciding what to discard to it now. Still not going to transform Jace, though. Full grip of cards there from Mengucci. We can take a look at what he's working with here. Well, that's a lot of spells. Look at that hand. Mengucci deep in the tank here and finally decides to discard a 2nd copy of Jace.
All those creatures are cheaper. So he could dump a bunch of them onto the table, but...
He decides not to.
Well, he doesn't have a way to stop a Languish.
That's right.
If he had a Negate, for example, I think he would have put more onto the board. But he can't afford to overcommit when he doesn't know Shota took out 2 Languishes and hasn't drawn 1.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, Dragon Lord Ojitai has no problem getting in the red zone here, getting a trigger. And Andrea's life total is going to start plummeting here. This is going to be interesting. Shota Yasooka has to win back-to-back games to put himself into the finals of the Pro Tour here. And Duress is going to help lead the way. Mengucci's going to show him his hand. He's got Declaration in Stone.
Yeah, no decision on the Duress.
Only choice.
But Shota's going to take the time to note all those contents and know what he needs to play around. Yeah, Andrea's draw is just all creatures. Were you the one I was talking to earlier that said you have Shota as the most intimidating opponent you could ever sit across from?
Yes.
What's he got? He's got a Languish, doesn't he? I can't play all these creatures. He's just going to kill them all.
Exactly. He plays so quickly and he misses nothing. It's just, you feel like you're behind the whole time. You know, I've stood behind in the spotter roll down on the feature match area for multiple matches with Shota, and it just feels like he's playing the game from your side for you, and he just does it, and you're like, but there's a few other names that pop to mind too. He's not the only one. Finkel.
Yeah, the Finkel fear factor.
Yeah, absolutely. Owen.
Yeah.
He's so confident when he, you know, sits at the table.
Yeah, and kind of the best player out there right now in the best form.
Indeed.
It was super surprising to see him not finish in the money at this Pro Tour. The first bad result I can remember from him in seemingly years.
I've heard people say that they find Huey particularly intimidating, though I don't.
Sure.
Just a teddy bear. Looks like Shota is going to ultimate price here. He's going to take down Jace.
Turns out he had 4 turns to get around to killing it before it could transform.
Indeed. And that was 2 spells cast, so Duskwatch Retreater's going to transform. And a Declaration in Stone off the top for Andrea Mengucci.
It's kind of perfect. You got to try to kill Ojutai, right?
Absolutely. Andrea's going to get in for a couple of damage here. Ominous 2 blue mana up there for Yasooka. Let's look at what is in his hand here. Does he have it? Oh, he has it.
Of course he has it. The real question is whether Andrea can bait it out. Like, which spells does Andrea care the most about resolving? Shota can only counter 1 thing, and Andrea is capable of doing, what, 2 or 3 things.
See, the thing that's going to make it really difficult, though, is that if it's a creature that he's casting to try to bait it out, then Yasooka can look at his hand and say, well, I've got Dragon Lord Silumgar, so what's my worst case scenario?
Wow.
But a Planeswalker, it was a Nissa, so not quite a Planeswalker, but close enough, is going to do it. And Declaration in Stone takes care of Dragon Lord Ojutai. All right, we're back to business here. 2 creatures on the battlefield for Mengucci.
And to your point, Andrea probably feels like, you know, I got the spell to resolve that I cared the most about. He sequenced it that way on purpose to bait the counterspell, but Shota didn't hesitate. Shota was instantaneously countering the Nissa. That's playing that quickly and that confidently has to make Andrea wonder if he was even right about what mattered.
Exactly. And if we look at Shota's resume, we see that he's usually right about what matters. Okay, so Kalidas, Trader of Get, hits the battlefield. Jace pluses on one of the Duskwatch Recruiters. And this is a precarious position. And there, right off the top of the library, is a Bounding Crisis. That can help keep Kalidas tied up for a turn sequence here, depending on how Mengucci wants to play this. I think he's just going to pass. Yeah, he's just going to pass the turn. Now, the shields did go down here for a minute, so Mengucci can take this window to resolve something. He does not.
And you saw Shota look over, you know, can I untap?
Yep. Yeah, it's a subtle part of Magic, but there is a priority pass on end step, and if somebody does something, put something on the stack, it goes back to that priority pass where both players have the opportunity to do something. Tireless Tracker is going to get activated, excuse me, Duskwatch Recruiter is going to get activated on upkeep and find a Tireless Tracker.
Jace goes down to flashback ultimate price.
Okay, so 1 Crawling Horde Howler in the bin, 1 zombie netted here for Yasooka. And he's just going to pass a turn back.
13.
This is going to be a Bounding Crisis on end step. Yes, he does get to play it for only 2. That resolves. But before your turn happens, Foul Tongue Invocation you.
I think that was actually as a response to the Crisis to make sure that he got Crawling Horde Howler.
Yep, you're correct, actually. So that's still on the stack. Now it's going to resolve. Or will it? Yes, it will. And in fact does tap down Cletus, Trader of Get. Okay. Yasooka feels like he's in the lead here, but it's not over. And there's one of the weaknesses of Cletus here. Reflector Mage from Andrea Mengucci. The problem is the damage may already be done. Those 2 zombies are really important here.
Sure.
Still no 6th land here for Mengucci either. He's had that Sylvan Advocate in his hand for a while.
Finally decided he has no choice but to open up a possible loss to Languish. The thing is, the Languish would get the Kalatas, right?
It wouldn't.
Does he have enough mana to eat a zombie?
Yeah, he does have enough mana to gobble up one of the zombies, but that would leave Yasooka pretty shields down at that point and really vulnerable to the Reflector Mage, as both zombies would be going.
Sure.
Yeah, but Yasooka just gets to keep chipping away here. He's going to use a Foul Tongue Invocation. He's going to reveal Dragonlord Silumgar to it as well, so jump up in life total. And he's got a clean attack with Cletus here as well. No blocks. Mengucci falls down to 9. Yasooka up to 22. Mengucci found a land. Tireless Tracker and Evolving Wilds here as well, so a couple of cards worth of value as well as growing.
Well, never mind that.
All right, so Tireless Tracker, I was a little anxious on that one.
I forgot to say Simon Says, or Mother May I guess is the better.
Yeah, but he does still have the Evolving Wilds. Curious to see if he just cracks it immediately. Can get a little awkward if... All right, there we go. Looks like a Duskwatch Recruiter. Another Kalitas off the top for Shota Yasooka. Kalitas has brought friends to the party here as well. Take a look at that. 3 zombies generated off of the spot removal spells from Shota. He's going to plus Jace. Deciding what to target here, it looks like. Shota's doing math. Can't be good for Mengucci. So you can see that Mengucci has turned the Duskwatch Recruiter upside down. That's to signify it was targeted by Jace. And there's Dragonlord Silumgar. That's going to steal a Sylvan Advocate. Things are shaping up for Shota Yasooka to force a game 5. He's doing math. Is there a big attack incoming here? Might have to wait a turn.
Well, I mean, he would lose the Kalatas if he attacked with everybody, but get through for 6, or maybe get through for 4 and kill Tireless Tracker. All those sound like reasonable scenarios. I think you just turn them sideways.
Yeah, it's a Duskwatch Recruiter, but yeah.
Oh, sorry, Duskwatch, sure.
No worries. And remember, Shota Yasooka has an additional copy.
Right, exactly.
In his hand of
so he can even replay.
Of Get. Yeah, so not a big loss for him there, and in fact puts Andrea Mengucci to 2. And this also means that Mengucci does not get to sacrifice that Evolving Wilds. I mentioned this on the last turn cycle. This creature had taken damage there. Didn't want to shrink it down temporarily. It would have died. Mengucci kind of gives a head shake there. He is going to get back, at least temporarily, his Sylvan Advocate. Now Evolving Wilds is going to go away. Let's see if this ends up punishing Mengucci. Does he need this mana right now for something? He's got a Duskwatch Recruiter that he can't use.
Yes. He would have loved to have sacked that Evolving Wilds on Shota's turn, which means he probably should have sacked it main phase.
Yeah, I mentioned it on his main phase there. No, it's something that doesn't come up too often, but can.
I think you're just right.
In the meantime, he's going to attack Jace, which kills Jace. and leaves Shota with 3 zombie tokens but no other board. But remember, Dragonlord Silumgar in hand. Currently can't be cast, but that's a massive threat to come down later. Taking a look at Mengucci's hand here now with Duress. He's going to take away a negate, leaving Mengucci with a Bounding Crisis.
He should have cast the negate, right? Not give Shota the information about what's in his hand?
Probably so.
Oh, it's Yavimai's. It's not worth taking a point of damage for that.
Fair. He's at 2, going to 1. Cletus, Trader of Get is the follow-up, and you can see that Shota's just building out his board. There's another Reflector Mage. That could absolutely keep Mengucci alive for another turn.
How's he winning, though, right?
That is the problem. And remember, I keep going back to it, but that Dragonlord Silumgar in Shota's hand is such a huge swing. Takes away a blocker, puts up a lethal flyer. These are some really, really important turns as we work our way down the stretch here in the 4th game. If Mengucci can find a way to win this from 2 life, he will put himself into the finals. Shota just needs to get through for those final 2 to force the game 5. I have to say, it looks like it's favoring him pretty strongly here at this point. Shota's going to activate his Jace.
Shota's got 4 lethal attackers.
He does.
There's only 4 blockers on the other side.
So you're thinking Dragonlord Steel attack?
I would actually use Grasp of Darkness, I think, and keep the rest of my mana.
Okay.
Because I think Shota has a Silumgar Scorn as well.
Let's look here.
Oh, there's a Shambling Vents. He's actually got lethal.
Yeah,
he can force Andrea to move first if he fires up Shambling Vents.
Yes, and he does have a Silumgar Scorn to protect this play as well, so it looks like Shota Yasooka is going to be able to take down game 4 here. Unless Mengucci has something crazy in his hand to mess with this. He's got a Bounding Crisis that Shota knows about.
Yeah, my Grasp of Darkness line doesn't beat Bounding Crisis, which Shota saw on the Duress. This line does, though.
Here's a Duress, just to make sure.
Sure.
Activate, show Silumgar Scorn, reveal the dragon, and that is going to do it. Shota Yasooka evens things up at 2 games apiece. Of course, we're going to get a game 5, Randy.
Love it.
This has been a fantastic match so far. Really showcasing a lot of the incremental card advantage available in Standard. If you're into grinding, welcome. You're home. Really, also, I have to say that these are 2 of the contemporary mid-range versus a control deck that we see. That a lot of the mid-range decks end up looking a lot like Bant Company.
Sure.
You know, in the shell of Jund, Abzan. You know, we've seen these type of decks. This one has a little bit of a different take on it. One card that both of these players have in their list here, though, is Jace Friend's Prodigy. And, you know, I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Randy, as it does seem that Jace has had a bit of a power level adjustment from the previous version of Standard.
Yeah, I think that the absence of fetch lands from Standard has just made it significantly harder to flip Jace. Or not, I mean, it's slower. You're not flipping him on turn 3. You're usually not flipping him on turn 4. Still a very good card, but you're just stuck in Merfolk Looter mode for a couple of turns before you really get to Telepath Unbound. The other thing that I think has, I don't know if this counts as a nerf to Jace's power level, but he's harder to play now because the absence of fetch lands does the second thing. Means you can't splash a 4th color. The mana in Standard right now seems like, okay, you can make 3 work if you're slowish. You know, you have to be either mid-range or control-ish.
Like these decks.
Like these decks.
Which, by the way, both have very slow mana bases.
Right.
A lot of tap lands.
So you can get to 3 color, but you cannot play an aggressive 3 color deck, and no one can really play a 4 color deck. So that is definitely a change as well, and it means you're not seeing Jace just show up in random three color decks that splash blue for him. Still a great
seems
card.
like a good resting spot, you know, like
This
a nice place to
Jace,
level out at.
Totally agree. Totally agree. He was a little nutty. I mean, the 4-color fetch land mana bases were a little nutty, to be fair.
Indeed.
I like where the mana's at in Standard right now.
Yeah, we're back down to earth, and it's good to be home, you know, as far as reasonable.
2-color seems like the norm.
Yes.
You can build a 2-color deck and be aggressive, and it'll work most of the time. You still get advantages to going to monocolor, right? The mono-white humans decks would have like 18 planes, and that was just the right answer. And they did pretty well. I'm actually a little bit surprised we wound up without a white weenie deck in this top 8. And we can actually look at this the battle land cycle, see what we're talking about for the mana that is in Standard right now. Between the battle lands and the shadow lands, sort of interesting mixes. That's part of the challenge of making 3-color decks work, is figuring out how many of these you want. These seem to be more popular in the 3-color decks than the shadow lands.
Indeed.
Seems like Evolving Wilds and Basics with battle lands is the right answer. It's a good cycle.
I like seeing Evolving Wilds in Standard as well. Why don't we take a look at those shadow lands that you just mentioned? So these are new. People are still kind of figuring out where they go, but they've definitely found their home in Standard.
I mean, the 2-color decks,
they're legit.
2-color decks they're great in 2-color decks. Depending on how you set up your 3-color deck, you want some number of them in those as well. And yeah, you see that second bullet point. They do work nicely with the battle lands.
Indeed.
As long as you play them in the right order.
Nice little overlap, yeah. Okay, players are taking a look at their opening hands, and we're almost set for semifinal number 1, the concluding game number 5 between Shota Yasooka from Japan and Andrea Mengucci from Italy. Who's going to take that first seat in the finals? We know that Andrea's on the play here, and he starts things off with a Jace Vryn's Prodigy. A great start for him, and something that Shota is going to want to answer as soon as he can. In fact, it looks like he's considering playing a Caves of Koilos to use a Grasp of Darkness just to stop Mengucci from doing anything here. No, he's got a Deadweight, which allows him to play Tapland Prairie Stream here. Nice. That's a good play for Shota.
Super efficient removal.
Super cheap way, and lets him still develop his mana in the way that he wants. Okay. Mengucci, though, has a nice play of his own. He's got a Sylvan Advocate, which is going to start applying pressure to Shota. Forces him to react. Mengucci also has a Collected Company in his hand here, as well as a Negate and an Ojutize command, so not bad at all.
Can Shota kill this Advocate while Mengu's tapped out?
He can. He's got a Grasp of Darkness, and he's got a Caves of Koilos, so if he'd like to, he can. Pretty sure that Deadweight was the original. We'll see, though. He might have another copy of it. And you know what? He's deciding to go for the longer game here, right? Instead of dealing with the Advocate right away while the shields were down for Mengucci as far as any type of counter spells go. Remember, these players do have deck lists, so
right, yeah.
Shota's going to know that some number of those counters are going to have coming out of the sideboard. He's deciding to take this turn to resolve a Painful Truths, and yes, it is painful. That's an extra 2. And now Mengucci gets to just go land go, leaving up Collected Company and really forcing Shota to react to him.
Leaving up Collected Company and Negate and Ojutize command.
Oof.
It's like all instants. You're going to make me cast a counterspell? I'll cast a counterspell. You don't make me cast a counterspell? I'll play a Collected Company.
So it's going to be a Jace that goes on the stack for Shota. Andrea Mengucci's going to pick a fight here, though. Play Ojutize command, which gets him his own Jace back and counters the other Jace. Wow, that's a huge swing.
Absolutely.
And now he's really given Shota something to think about here, because Shota can only kill one of these creatures. And it looks like he's going to favor his life total here and kill the Sylvan Advocate rather than killing the Jace. Again, you mentioned it earlier, Randy, but you know, that Jace is still going to take a while to turn into a Planeswalker, so I think Shota feels like he's going to have to give up a little value here, but manage his life total more effectively, especially when some of his card draw spells do some pretty significant damage to him. Shota's already down to 13 in the early stages here. This is the decider, by the way. Winner of this game wins the entire match and will await the other semifinal and the finals here in Madrid. This is huge. Land go from Yasooka. He doesn't want to play this game, and Collected Company's going to resolve.
Wow.
There is a Languish in hand, though, for Yasooka. Let's take a look. Yes, he's got a Languish, a Duress, a Dragonlord Ojutai, and a Dragonlord Silumgar in his hand, it shows.
Interestingly, Yasooka took out one copy of Silumgar Scorn for this last game and brought in a third Duress. He also brought back in a third Languish, taking out one Jace.
And here we go. Jace is now going to transform, or at least there's going to be a trigger on the stack. And it's happening. Yasooka, just with that flippant hand movement, just says, yep, you get to do it all. This is huge for Mengucci, especially if he can play a land here. And he does. Now his Sylvan Advocate's a 4/5. He's got 7 power on the board with Yasooka down to 13. The Languish in Yasooka's hand does not get rid of both creatures at this point. And I wonder if Mengucci's just going to attack with the Lumbering Falls here too. He is. Go for it.
4, 9,
10 damage.
Wow.
This has Yasooka down to 3?
9, 12. You go to 1. 6. Go.
Wow, this looks like Andrea Mengucci winning his seat here. He's got Yasooka down to 1 with 3 lethal threats, one of them a land that's hexproof. How the heck does Yasooka get out of this? Land go from Yasooka as he passes the turn back to Mengucci. Mengucci with 3 lethal threats. He even has 2 copies of Negate in his hand. We will note here, though, Randy, there is a Shambling Vent sitting back there for Yasooka, which means that while it looks like he's at 1, it may need to be 3 damage that gets through to actually kill him. Mengucci is going to favor keeping the 2 copies of Negate up and just attack with both of his creatures. And that does it. Andrea Mengucci is into the finals here in Madrid. He defeats Shota Yasooka 3 games to 2, really having to earn every victory there. And he's through. Bant Company into the finals. Wow, Esper Dragons in the hands of Shota Yasooka. He's going to have to settle for a semifinal finish. Still obviously an awesome run by Shota. Nothing to take away from our Hall of Famer there, but we are now Hall of Famerless.
We still have a World Team champ in the finals.
We do.
And the reigning individual champ could join him there.
That's right. Wow, fantastic stuff. And I love the way that was played as well. Welcome back to the booth. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe, and that is Randy Buehler. Fantastic stuff, Randy.
That was fun to watch.
All about that incremental card advantage, and it
great.
looked like it was Andrea Mengucci who ended up on top after all that. All right, we've got another semifinal to bring you. So to set that up, we've got Richard Hagan at the news desk.
Thanks very much to Marshall and Randy. Yes, semi-final 2 coming up just about 5 or 10 minutes from now. But first, our own Brian David Marshall was out and about with Team Eureka ahead of the Pro Tour. And he had a chance to sit with some of them and ask them about, I guess you could call it, their constructed greatest hits. Take a look.
It's pretty cliche, but it has to be Caw-Blade. I got to play Caw-Blade for Player of the Year on the weekend where no one knew Caw-Blade existed. I mean, it's fun, and it's like the Eldrazi moment from last Pro Tour, where there's this team that just got to play the busted deck before anyone knew about it, and it was just unfair, and no one was prepared for it. And that's what Caw-Blade felt like. It was just this very powerful, consistent deck that was not only the aggressor, but the controlling player, and you got to do pretty much whatever you wanted because people weren't ready for that. So easily Caw-Blade and winning Player of the Year with it. Caw-Blade is a deck that actually breaks a fundamental rule of Magic. which is you can't be the aggressor and the controller at the same time. So it was a deck that could play Stoneforge Mystic on turn 2, go get a Sword of Feast and Famine, hold up counter magic, play it, equip it, attack, untap all your lands, cast Jace the Mind Sculptor, draw cards or bounce their permanents, cast Gideons, attack them or kill their creatures. So whenever a deck is able to do both things, it's kind of broken, and we saw Jace and Stoneforge get banned out of the format because you're just not supposed to be able to do that. So the deck was unbelievably broken, especially at a time when no one knew about it.
It's such a hard question to reply. I enjoy a lot playing Fairies, Blue-Black Fairies in Standard, then enjoying playing Blue-White Cowblade. I thought it was more like a blue mage for all these years, but then I found out that what I really enjoy playing is the green min-range decks. Like, I really enjoyed the Curse of Krupix era. It was just super grinding, boring matches, but they were so long, and if you just keep putting attention in your game, you just get small advantage, and it just reduces so much the variance of the game, and it just rewards so much to skillful players, like all those grindy Curse of Krupix decks. I did. GP Manchester was block constructed. I won the GP. There was this Sultai deck that was super slow, super grindy, super control-ish. And every small decisions, like, I felt that every little decision they'll take through the game, and they will go so long that eventually players less prepared than me will make slightly mistakes, and every little mistake, or every little, not even mistakes, just decisions that is not the best one, will put me half a step ahead of them, and eventually I'll just get the wins in every match with this deck.
Well, obviously, Attacker Red, the deck that I won with, would always have a special place in my heart, and I'll remember it always. But the deck that I really like to play was the deck that I won National with in 2010. It was Turbolance, it was called. It ran 4 Jace the Mind Sculptor, which is just my favorite all-time card. And yeah, the strategy was just like control and just winning on like late game, and just like it has a lot of counter spells and a lot of powerful cards. So I like blue-based deck, which might surprise a lot of people, but yeah, in general I like longer games. So
I think the deck that I had the most fun playing, and I did quite well with it, was many years ago, and I wasn't as good of a player then, but it was called Greater Gifts. So you basically play the Gifts Ungiven, a very nice card, and I like to play with it a lot. And Greater Good, and you play Yosei, the Morning Star, and Kukusho, and you bring them back with Glorious Vengeance to tap down your opponent's permanents, and you keep doing that and drawing cards. And you know, you draw cards, you play Gifts Ungiven, and you play dragons, and you reanimate them. It's like a kill stream, right?
My favorite constructed deck of all time has to be Birthing Pod. Like, both in Standard and Modern, that is definitely the deck I've had the most fun with. Like, yeah, I think that has to be the most fun. I think a lot of people have it like that, because there's like so many decisions, and it is kind of coming. That was kind of natural to me to know what to get with like Birthing Pod, and it's so fun because you had like endless options. So that is just by far the most fun. For a while in Modern, the most like cute thing I played was like a Kiki-Jiki Birthing Pod deck that played like Lotus Cobra. So you had turn 1 Bird of Paradise and Noble Hierarch, turn 2 a Lotus Cobra. You could play Fetchland and a Birthing Pod, and then you can actually chain through a lot of creatures to kill them on turn 3 with like Kiki-Jiki and on a Deceiver Exarch.
Makes some of what we're seeing seem quite tame, doesn't it, really? Thanks very much to BDM and Team Eureka. All right, so BDM and Ian Duke here with us. Let's talk about Semi-Final 2 then, and get you up to speed with what's been happening here at Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. Let's take a look at our bracket, and we began with Luis Scott Vargas against Shota Yasooka. And Ian, this went by 3 games to 1 to the Japanese Hall of Famer. Not a big surprise?
Yeah, not really a big surprise there. I think I was talking to Luis a little bit before the match, and he definitely didn't think it was a very favorable matchup for him.
So Yasooka advanced to the semi-final, where he would play the winner, BDM, of Finkel and Mengucci. What happened?
Well, you know, Mengucci, with the Bant Company deck, took down the brand new, exciting Seasons Past control deck in what may seem like a surprise, but apparently was not a great matchup for the Seasons Past control deck.
Right, so the Italian advanced with his Bant company deck. That would be our first semi-final. Then we turned our attention to the bottom half of the bracket and the All-American clash between Brad Nelson with red-green goggles ramp and Steve Rubin with his green-white tokens. So Ian, this one turned out not to be close, which was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, it was. I think a lot of us just looking at the deck list going in thought that, you know, Brad would have a pretty fighting chance, if not be a favorite in this matchup. He's got tons of red removal, tons of sweepers, but in the end, it was Steve Rubin who, you know, just had a tremendous performance there, taking the match 3-0.
And BDM, you had a little bit of intel from Brad about why that might have happened.
Yeah, well, he said, you know, early in the weekend that he did not want to face against the Gideon deck. He thought that was one of their worst matchups, and he was really aware that he didn't want anybody from that face-to-face team getting into the top 8 with that deck.
Right, so Steve Rubin advanced to the semifinals. He would play the winner of Seth Manfield and Luis Salvato. Now, Manfield, the world champion, the reigning #2 in the world right now. Luis Salvato, the 7 seed from Argentina, the Super Sunday Series champion from last season around. But this one, in the end, it was another clean sweep, BDM, and it went
to Seth Manfield, who, by the way, passed Owen Turtenwald for the lead in Player of the Year with that win.
Wow.
And this was not a particularly close match either. Tons of spot removal in Salvato's deck, which is not great here.
I was in the booth with Tim Willoughby at the time, and it felt like every time we checked in on the match, Seth Manfield just had this commanding board presence. Multiple planeswalkers in play, tons of cards in hand. His deck was like a boa constrictor, like, you know, just closing in on its prey.
Yeah, it was not a fun one, that, for Salvato, but a fantastic performance to be in his first top 8. And I'm sure the Argentinian community will be very, very proud when you get back home. So, on we went to our semi-finals, and as we said, we began with Andrea Mengucci against Shota Yasooka. Yasooka, the last of the 3 Hall of Famers standing in our top 8. BDM, what happened in the match we've just seen?
Yeah, you know, the blue-black you know, the Esper control decks are supposed to be the card advantage decks, but it seemed like Mengucci was just able to keep pace card for card with cards like Duskwatch Recruiter and Collected Company, and also being able to bring in a package of counter spells to fight against key removal spells in Yasooka's deck, and Mengucci won that in a 5-game set.
So we have one finalist, we need another. So we go to the bottom half of the bracket with Steve Rubin up against Seth Manfield. Another All-American affair. It's going to be green-white tokens against Esper Control. Why don't we take a look at Steve Rubin for you. One of the lesser-known Platinum pros right now, 24 years old, over 100 lifetime pro points. He's going to get a stack more this weekend. His first Pro Tour top 8, only 4-2 in booster draft, but he doesn't have to draft today. He gets to carry on playing standard, and he's 8-1-1, and now, of course, he's already won his quarterfinal. Let's take a look at his deck for you, and it is green-white tokens. Ian, is it as simple as it's green, it's white, and it's tokens?
More or less, that's one way to put it. I mean, it's definitely a low-to-the-ground deck that wants to generate tons of creatures and get value out of them by pumping them up in different ways, like Nissa, Voice of Zendikar, like Gideon, Ally of Zendikar. Those are probably the 2 center pieces of the deck. But yeah, we see a return of Hangerback Walker, a card that was really prominent a couple seasons ago in Standard, and then the new addition, Archangel Avacyn from Shadows over Innistrad, as well as Westvale Abbey, 2 cards we've seen a lot so far this summer.
Something to watch out for from this deck. They talk a lot about the end of turn. Do I have Archangel Avacyn, you know, on your turn, or am I going to cast Secure the Wastes at the end of your turn?
Yes.
So there's sort of a, you know, they're able to sort of pass the turn with open mana, and you really have to make some guesses about what they're planning to do on that turn.
For sure. All right, well, watch out for that. What about Seth Manfield, our reigning world champion? Let's take a look at him for you. He is, as I say, #2 ranked player in the world right now, and 2nd Pro Tour top 8, 3 Grand Prix titles. What is he playing? Let's take a look at his deck. It is Esper Control. Now this time, BDM, I'm confident in saying this is all about being white, blue, and black, and being in control.
Yeah, this is really about just setting up a dominating board state behind a handful of planeswalkers, removal, you know, some board sweepers. This is another Languish deck. Ian, or very early on in the weekend, you talked about how important it was to find the right shell for the Languish.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, coming in, knowing Bant Company, knowing mono white humans were going to be the 2 big decks, and they chose to not play any creatures in their deck and just win with Planeswalkers and creature lands.
All right, so we're ready to go. It is time for Steve Rubin against Seth Manfield. It's time for the second semi-final here at PTSOI.